While I don't intend on making this a political channel away from all my sports content, my sports content's always going to primarily be what my channel is about, supporting Calgary teams here, but I figure why don't I make a video and just give my take on the 2019 Alberta election here and what I feel the outcome from the last 4 years up to now and what I feel is going to happen here in the future. So anyway, since Alberta became a province in 1905, this is actually only the 5th time that we've had a change in government there. Well, 44 of those years we've had the PCs in charge from 1971 until just before 2015 there, and suddenly we got a surprise NDP majority there. A lot of it was a protest vote that backfired, and there was definitely splitting of the vote with the PC government and the PC party and the Wild Rose party in 2015, and there were a lot of people that were thinking, looking for a change there, and they were too scared to vote for the Wild Rose, and they were mad at the PCs, and the NDP definitely looked like a potential alternative there, and just didn't think we were going to get a majority at the end of the day, and fortunately that's what happened there. And at the same time, the decline of oil prices definitely has hurt the Alberta economy at whole, and you can also say Liberal policies in Ottawa hasn't helped either too, but that I'll get to later in the video where I talk about where I figure the future is given what's happened the last 4 years in Alberta and throughout the country with their elections here. But the NDP took over. First time we've had a socialist government in charge of a traditionally conservative province. I mean, I figure I consider myself conservative, and Calgary's the most conservative politically city in Canada, and I figure conservative views and policies ultimately, I think, serves Alberta the best here. So it's interesting to see how this NDP experiment goes, and every province seems to like to try the NDP experiment and ultimately be just as anxious to vote them out when they have time, or eventually vote them out. And that's why 2019 couldn't come soon enough, especially after when the PCs and the Wild Rose decided to merge to become one united Conservative Party, to have one united right-wing option, to not potentially split the vote, which is what happened in 2015 there. And you can look at many videos still on YouTube and newscasts from 2015 on what the heck happened there. In a nutshell, I just say it was a protest vote that backfired. So you can look in the past there and all the events that led up to the snap election in 2015, where Jim Prentice thought he was going to win again after taking much of the Wild Rose Party then, and his decision backfired after Rachel Notley, kicked everyone's in the debate then. But anyway, here we are in 2019 after the decline of oil prices and recessions, and they pretty much stagflation the last couple of years, when unemployment has stayed high and growth hasn't happened and people's wages haven't gone up, or many people are still looking for jobs. So Rachel Notley eventually dropped the writ there, and her question was, who do you feel is fit to be premier? While Jason Kenney, who eventually became the leader of the United Conservative Party, there was also a lot of controversies involved. Eventually how he became leader when the United Conservative Party was looking for a leader themselves. But I'm going to say this election ultimately is quite similar to what happened in Ontario, when eventually the Progressive Conservatives, led by Doug Ford, who is the brother of Rob Ford, the famous or infamous former mayor of Toronto, who fortunately he passed away from cancer there. But Ford Nation continues in Canada's biggest province there, but there was definitely some scandals and controversy that the UCP definitely had to dodge. But I think that didn't really hurt the results ultimately, because what Jason Kenney was asking was, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And myself and many other people I know, the answer is no in terms of, struggling to get by, or cost of everything has gone up while the salaries have remained stagnant, and, always worried about losing your job, or companies, especially where I work, decisions had to get made and over the years, and there weren't the popular decisions, and also the fact that a lot of our projects that we got have been, smaller, but yet the fees we get smaller, but yet the amount of work we got to do for it has gotten, up too. So, everything's gotten more competitive in our industry, but, there's definitely been a lot of, another thing you could say an NDP government in a nutshell is all the tax increases and that, and then the sudden raise in minimum wage. There's, you walk down, trendy shopping districts, you see a lot of for lease signs there, and hopefully maybe getting a United Conservative Party in will make it a more business-friendly environment again and bring back the Alberta Advantage. So basically what happened in the 2019 Alberta election here, ultimately I was happy with the result that the United Conservative Party won with the majority here, although clearly there's still some division in this province here, as, Calgary has, for much of the last 4 years during this economic downturn that I still say is happening right now, has unfortunately led the country in unemployment rate, only behind or sometimes with the Atlantic provinces where they have a lot of seasonal fishery work, but even the city of Edmonton has been up there in, unemployment rate as well there. But Calgary and Edmonton are definitely two different cities here where it comes to all the head offices, and that a lot of the blue collar work is here in Calgary, while up in Edmonton, which is the capital of the province of Alberta, is definitely a little more liberal, and traditionally a little more liberal, and that's her all the government jobs there. So of course the NDP will get more support up there because they're definitely a lot more friendly to unions and government jobs there. And then Rachel Notley is also up there as well, and she definitely, as a leader, she can. She obviously, no matter what you like her or dislike her, or agree or disagree with her policies, but she's still going to be, for the record, she was the premier leading the party that knocked out the political dynasty, the PC, after 44 years in Alberta there. But Jason Kenney was definitely a very conservative leader that he's from here in Calgary, and one thing that definitely, you could say, really hurt the NDP's chances of getting re-elected again is the fact that two things you definitely don't want to mess with and piss off in Alberta is the oil and gas industry and the farm industry, and definitely they definitely weren't very kind to those businesses in Alberta because you impose a carbon tax, which is just a tax on everything and just makes everything a lot more expensive. The freaking government isn't going to control the weather based on the level of taxation they put on most people, and ultimately it hurts us in the pocketbook there. And then it was Bill 6 that the NDP proposing to put more regulations on farmers there. Basically, as you go left of the spectrum there, political spectrum, if you remember your social studies, there is how much more government is involved in your life. And conservative means it's more free enterprise and less government regulations here, and that's essentially what made Alberta the province it was up until this point there. I do agree that we can still diversify the economy a little more, but you still can't really bite the hand that feeds. And in fact, there's actually statistics out there saying that the Alberta economy is actually a lot more diverse now. Here we are late in 2019, because everyone looks at the 80s, the early 80s, are back when another Trudeau was in Ottawa and his national energy policy, that Alberta was hit hard with the recession there too, and oil prices went down. But apparently Alberta's economy, still a lot of it is reliant on oil and gas, is actually less reliant on oil and gas now than it was back in the 80s there. And yet, we've been going through the worst recession since the Great Depression here, and you can almost maybe throw up that D word, as people have been economically and emotionally depressed here the last 4 years. But I do feel that there is some hope in the future here. I mean, it's going to take some time to recover from what's happened the last 4 years, because another thing, look at when you compare it to Ontario here is that Bob Rae back in 1990, they famously called it the Rae days, where Ontario tried to, have an NDP government, tried the NDP experiment during a recession there, and it definitely hurt their province, and they've been trying to recover after, when Mike Harris took over. Progressive Conservatives there, and then Kathleen Wynne she definitely didn't do it too well there, especially end there, so you got Doug Ford coming in. And then basically what happened, and this is the first time since 1993 here, is that only 2 parties are actually represented. That's the only part that I'm a little disappointed in with the election results, is only with the division between Calgary, rural Alberta, and Edmonton there. I mean, pretty much it was Calgary and rural Alberta that pretty much had all the United Conservative Party seats there, and then NDP was mostly all NDP up in Edmonton except for 1 seat there. But of the 87 seats available, there was 63 that went for the UCP and 24 for the NDP here, and that was it. It's the first time since 1993 that only 2 parties were in charge here that have seats, because I thought maybe the Alberta Party could have possibly got a seat. I know Greg Clark, the first leader of the Alberta Party, which you could probably say is right in the middle, where the NDP is off to the left there, and the United Conservative Party, I'm going to say, is a lot more right-wing compared to the Progressive Conservatives there, but the United Conservative Party is definitely a lot more aligned with the Conservative Party of Canada when it comes to the political spectrum and policy there. But yeah, Greg Clark didn't get a seat, and Stephen Mandel, who is the leader of the Alberta Party there, I'm assuming maybe he'll eventually step down, but he must have been liked enough in Edmonton to be mayor for 3 terms, I believe, there, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get a seat up there. So basically it seems like there's either left or right. A lot more right, because I think that's the best policies for Alberta's interests in general here. I mean, you got to have some opposition here and have kind of a blend of both. Ideally, that's how government works, but I just thought there would be a few more Alberta Party seats, considering that the Alberta Party had 2% of the popular vote back in 2015, and they were able to get a seat, while they had 10% of the popular vote and didn't get a seat. And then ultimately, you could say the UCP got 55% of the popular vote there too, while the NDP had around 32 there. And then the Liberal Party didn't get a seat there. I mean, actually, I live in the riding in Calgary. I think it was Calgary, North Hill, or I forget the exact name there. Eventually, Kathleen Gainley, who happened to be one of the few NDP MLAs that got re-elected, she was elected in 2015. But actually, David Kahn, the leader of the Liberal Party, actually ran in this riding, and he actually finished 4th. And I think Justin Trudeau is definitely, he damaged the Liberal brand here for Canada here, especially on the provincial level too. Because since 2015, when the NDP took over, surprisingly in Alberta here, and then eventually Justin Trudeau begrudgingly took over with a majority in Ottawa, and now he's looking like he's in trouble here, and hopefully 6 months from now I'll be making another video where I'm happy that the Conservatives won fairly here. But after the Alberta election, and things definitely started going downhill, Manitoba elected a Conservative government after 16 years of NDP government. That would definitely keep me up at night. But Saskatchewan Party in Saskatchewan, they're Conservative. They stayed Conservative after Brad Wall eventually resigned and Scott Moe took over, but Saskatchewan's definitely been a lot better off under the Saskatchewan Party after they had an NDP government for 2 terms there. And then BC is kind of the exception here, because they had a Liberal government for several years after the NDP experiment didn't work out, and somehow they had 2 terms in in the 90s there, but the NDP did not originally get most seats, but they had a minority after they went in bed and had to deal with the Green Party there, which, I might have to make another video ranting just about John Horgan west of us here, how he's also been screwing around with Alberta, where he doesn't want pipelines built in the province, but he also doesn't want us to cut off oil in the province too. Like, you can't have it both ways there, Mr. Horgan. And if you're wondering why gas prices are approaching $2 a barrel, or $2 a liter in Vancouver there, well, there's your problem there. So that's, BC is kind of the exception there, but then, as I say, Ontario voted a Conservative government in with Doug Ford there, and then Quebec, they actually voted out their Liberal Party with, I think their abbreviation is CAQ, which is kind of the equivalent of their Progressive Conservative Party there. So, and then New Brunswick, that was a minority there, and they had to fight off the Liberals as they were trying to do a coalition there. They voted a Progressive Conservative government, and recently Prince Edward Island voted Prince Edward Island government minority there, and actually the Greens actually picked up some seats there because Prince Edward Island actually was voting anyone but Liberal there too. And then in a couple weeks, interested to see if Newfoundland and Labrador, as they currently have a provincial Liberal government there, and polls are indicating that they're still in the lead there, but their Conservative Party is also gaining steam too. So basically from Alberta all the way to New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, it's all Conservative. So hopefully maybe this is a sign that, because the other thing is Justin Trudeau, he definitely was most cozy with Kathleen Wynne, the former Liberal Premier of Ontario there, and he definitely was very, very too cozy with our former Premier Rachel Notley, who is going to stay on as the opposition leader here, and I still think she'll do a great job as an opposition leader there. She's definitely was able to lead the NDP to a surprise government 4 years ago, but we definitely have had enough there. And as another former famous Conservative politician said, Miss Margaret Thatcher, the only problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money, and yes, most people have run out of money to support their ideas here, but I'm definitely very optimistic with Jason Kenney running the show here in Alberta. He recently got sworn in, and hopefully things will get better here, as he definitely ran on Pipeline's job in the economy here, and he's already taken, threatening John Horgan in BC there, and he begrudgingly met up with Trudeau there, but hopefully in the next 6 months that Andrew Scheer will be Prime Minister of Canada, and there'll definitely be a lot more allies with all the Conservative premiers in Canada there. So yeah, this is just my quick take on the Alberta election here. I'm definitely mostly happy with the outcome, as the UCP have won, and I think this will definitely be a sign that things will get better here, and hopefully with all the Conservative governments provincially being elected here, because there were a lot of premier satisfaction polls here the last couple of years, and only John Horgan, who recently came in BC, and Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, who recently came in after replacing Brad Wall, those were the only two premiers just a couple of years ago that had a satisfaction survey over 50%. While Rachel Notley at one time had an approval rating of like 35%, and that was in the middle of the pack. I mean, gee, if I had 35% approval rating at my player, or any of you guys, you wouldn't be in a job any longer. And actually Kathleen Wynne, before she got voted out in Ontario, I think her approval rate was like 15%, so, and that was the lowest. But anyway, I mean, that's just my take. I'm not planning on talking more politics here, and there's definitely a lot of videos you can look online to entertain and amuse yourself. I also do like the Rebel Media, which is a Canadian independent right-wing, activists, conservative activists. I find that, they go on to cover stories that the mainstream media don't dare to cover. And here in Calgary, we actually had a NDP MLA that was running for the NDP government. That in the past she actually ran for the Communist Party, and maybe the rebel media, thanks to Keenan Bexty, who's one of the reporters there, that shed light on that, and maybe people swayed and voted UCP, because the UCP barely won in that riding in the varsity. So anyway, I mean, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel with all my sports takes and that mostly, but I just figured I wanted to give my little take on the Alberta election here, and let's go UCP, go Jason Kenney, and I have faith in you that you are fit to be premier, and I was not better off 4 years ago, but hopefully 4 years from now I'll be hopefully planning on voting UCP again as a Conservative myself. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.